Hi, Zizaran here with another video for this 3.15 Expedition League, and this is a build theory video, not a full build guide, so especially if you're a new player, this might not be the video for you. So this is for Spectral Helix or Blessed Hammer, one of the new skills, and obviously since this is something that we haven't been able to play, first off, we don't have a video in the background showing actual gameplay or something I've played, and we don't fully know how it is going to be. Now, the good news about this is that it's a raider. So obviously a raider has a large amount of backups and like steel skills, maybe even blade blast will still work. There's a lot of different things a raider can swap into. But as with all new skills, sometimes it looks great on paper, sometimes it turns out to be a disaster. So you might be better off doing something that's a true and tested build that only had a numerical change. However, some good news. This is an attack projectile similar to a spectral throw, but it has basically the same damage as heavy strike, so it looks really good, and it fixes the problems that Diablo 2 Blessed Hammer have of, like, you know, just disappearing off walls, by the fact that it actually bounces and ricochets off walls. That might make it really strong for bosses in like indoor arenas. And maybe, for all we know, maybe Frostwell works on it. It shouldn't, but maybe it does. And something that's really strong on this build is free ailment immunity. So first off, again, it's a build theory video, so this is mostly for more advanced players that are just like looking for some like push in the right direction, and this is sort of like what I would do. Also, I believe Nugian was looking at builds like this, so he might have even more advice. Definitely check Nugi out. This is for level 98 basically, and this would be the last stuff you take up here, just for like a little additional life and stuff like that. Either way, the bandit for this build would be a Lyra. Obviously, we want crit, and mana would probably feel okay on this build too, but we should have a lot of mana from our claw. And the Pantheons would most likely be Solaris and Valak Cash. This is a pretty cool build. Obviously, we're going to do cold conversion. And in the skills here, from level 12, you can level with Spectral Helix. It's not in Path of Building yet, so I put Spectral Throw in instead. But until then, you can just use your standard Lancing Steel setup that you're probably used to from leveling other characters. And especially if you're on softcore, you could start out taking projectile damage nodes, because both the Lancing Steel and Spectral Helix is a projectile and an attack. We're going to be using Hatred and Cold Conversion in this build, and then obviously Hatred is very strong. We're getting cold damage and Fist is extra cold, so very big for this build. And later on, you have the option of getting a Cold Conversion Watcher's Eye. Now, as far as precision goes, I think the build's going to struggle with accuracy. So until you get a large amount of accuracy, either reallocating some skill points on the tree, or getting a large amount of accuracy on your gear, or again having precision, that's going to be fine. Another thing that could feel really good would be having a Herald of Ice instead of precision if you are able to solve the accuracy problems. But obviously any cold crit build, Herald of Ice always feels really good. We're going to be self-casting with Frostbite, but obviously getting Curse on hit on a ring would feel really good, and we'll use Blood Rage for frenzy charges. Other than that, you would want like your normal movement abilities and stuff like that. And I don't think there's any other auras. And castle damage taken, we're just gonna have to experiment with, because that costs mana now, and we don't know how that's gonna feel. Now let's look at a little bit of the items. So I just put on like fairly standard gear. This is like a mid to high tier claw, not too rough to get with harvest, and a lot of the other gear is pretty basic. Now obviously, until you can get a really good chest like this, you would just want like standard life and resist chest. But I would say that since we don't have like as much power from Diamond Flask as before, being able to get even a like a low level crit chest would be very big for this build. Frame Sorrow is what we would use early, and obviously these we can corrupt for example, Elemental Weakness on hit. And later on, if you get a Watcher's Eye with Conversion, you can replace this. And also you could get Hatred, Crit, Watcher's Eye, but these are very expensive. Boots, pretty straightforward, and Aziri Step Slink Boots would be really nice. Obviously, we want to get a lot of dodge. We'd have a decent amount of life, anywhere from like 5 to 7k, depending on your gear, and if you're able to use Vermilion Rings. A Gate Amulet, I can't think of anything super clever to do here, other than like Wed and Crit Chance and as much Crit Multi as you can get. Flat added Physical would also be good. Diamond Rings, you can also get flat added Physical here, and I just wanted to experiment with using Diamond Rings once again, because we're going to want accuracy and crit as much as we can get. And the belt, you basically just want Wed. Here is an example of a jewel with attack speed and flat fisted claws. And another example, and getting physical damage leashed as mana should feel pretty good. We might not need it because we are getting 14 mana gain for each enemy hit by your attack on the Demony Claw. But still, I find that it feels really good very often. And here is an example of just like, you can use attack speed, you can use projectile damage, claw damage, etc., or just global increased damage. that's pretty much all we have to say on this build. Obviously, this is just a theory video. I'm always a little bit careful on making guides for new gems because we simply haven't tried them. And I just wanted to air out my thoughts a little bit on how I would approach doing the build. So again, not a build guide. I just want to try to like give people that already are fairly advanced and experienced with the game a nudge in the right direction. So I think this could be pretty cool. And definitely make sure you try to check out creators that end up playing this build themselves at start, because they will be able to like hands-on tackle any problems. Also, keeping an eye on PoE Ninja, etc., and checking what other people are doing is always a great idea with a new skill. So I want to issue a hefty warning on this build. It's not a true and tested build. We have loads of others of those on our YouTube. But either way, thanks for watching. And if you do end up playing it, remember to share advice in the YouTube comments and things that you feel work for you. So thank you guys so much for watching. Sub if you liked the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.